Minister, I firmly believe that there are major problems with the idea and the delivery of carbon budgets. If they were merely indicative targets, then that might be one thing. But the fact is that these budgets are legally binding, inflexible and punitive. The whole concept behind them is to support our movement towards a so-called zero-carbon society in 2050, and that's a fairy tale, which will punish people in the process. The Minister will be aware that Professor Michael Kelly of Cambridge University recently delivered an eye-opening lecture to the Climate Science Forum on the costs of Ireland's transition to zero-carbon society, and it would do government good to listen to that and listen carefully instead of following blindly one particular agenda, which is hysterical and whipping up a lot of fear and anxiety in people unnecessarily who want to play their part. But instead of that, you're punishing them. You're dividing society, you're punishing the people who cannot afford. And how dare ye dictate to people on how they're to heat their homes? How dare ye? When people are expected to wait 24 months on a waiting list for a retrofitting scheme, are you suggesting that people freeze in their homes until they get their grant through? Or if it's out of their reach, what happens then if they cannot afford it? It's absolutely outrageous. But as I say, Professor Michael Kelly, it would do you good to listen to what he has to say, because he says that the cost of expanding the electricity sector in terms of transmission alone was estimated to be an incredible 15 to 20 billion. Indeed, the final bill, according to Professor Kelly, will be in the region of 123 billion for the electrification element of decarbonisation and an astonishing 255 billion for the retrofitting of buildings. Professor Kelly's view is that we do not need both zero-carbon electricity and zero-emission homes. He says that net zero is an unattainable pipe dream, and I agree. Without a major national commitment, a command economy and lower standards of living. He also says that we ought to repeal net zero legislation and replace it with more realistic targets and pragmatic targets. I support this call because you're punishing people and you don't want to listen to any other view. You're arrogant, you're elitist, and you're dismissing every other view. And you're also punishing people who want to play their part, because it's been announced that the ESB are going to increase the price of the electric chargers. That was released today in an RTE report. So you're punishing people who are trying to play their part, including the farmers with the microgeneration schemes that you have not honoured. They can't get onto the grid. They've invested heavily. What you're doing is disgraceful, and it needs to stop, and stop now. You need to wake up. Instead of going around like superheroes in capes, trying to save the planet and punish Irish people.